Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
That is why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has introduced the Green New Deal, which is, remember this one, use it, it's a watermelon. Green on the outside, deep, deep red communist on the inside. They want to take your pickup truck. They want to rebuild your home. They want to take away your hamburgers. This is what Stalin dreamt about but never achieved. You are on the front lines of the war against communism coming back to America under the guise of democratic socialism, which is just the PC term for communism. I want everyone to take to heart Donald J. Trump is never going to let it happen, and as he said to Congress, America will never be a socialist country.
Give me a break.
What was that? I mean, did anybody take my advice on Friday? And I said, if you have nothing to watch, you should watch the CPAC thing on the C-SPAN. Gorka. Sebastian Gorka. He's like a Bond villain, isn't he? He's like perfect casting for like the next Bond. Gorka. See, he is a communist. That's the craziest thing. I mean, it's like everything that they say that we are is who and what they are. It's just wow. I mean, shout out to Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Kevin delivered something to me early this morning. And, I always use my regular name. It's not Randi Rhodes, as you know. And so, he was delivering something delicious to me this morning. And I don't know how people know this, but there I was in my pajamas, answering the door at 8 a.m. And there he was, all bright and shiny, and happy to see, anybody answer a door at 8 a.m. And I said, good morning. And he goes, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Are you? I said, what, half awake? No, Randi Rhodes. Yes, I am, because I'm such a quick thinker at 8 in the morning. Yes, I am. Kill me. You know what I mean? It's just, And he just grabbed me and hugged me. And he was almost weeping on my shoulder. I almost wept on his because he was a strong black man, which is how he wanted his coffee, strong and black. I made him, with joy in my heart, a delicious cup of coffee, invited him in. And he said, the first thing he said was that he had been making deliveries on the day that Michael Cohen testified, and that every house that he was in had seen it. Everybody had watched it. And it just blew his mind. And, that he got into conversations with, I said, Kevin, this is Florida. You don't do that. You don't get into the conversation. Because people were like, so what? Who cares? He's a liar. I'm like, yeah, well, he lied to protect Donald Trump. He pled guilty to lying to protect Donald Trump. Now Donald Trump calls him a liar. It's a great racket, right? So we wept in each other's arms this morning. I told him I'd give him a shout out. So, hey, Kevin, he's a great guy. He's been listening for years and years and years. And I tell you, it was just a warm moment at 8 o'clock this morning after crazy CPAC. But he was, watching it too. And that was what we talked about. He said, did you see him? The man is unhinged. The man is deranged. What are you? I don't know why it's always me. What are you going to do about our president? So I thought I would invite a Democratic, Congress member on today so I could, pass it along. Not the concern. No, I can pass on the what are you going to do about a thing, because unless we all stick together, I mean, I don't. I will tell you this, this had to be February 2019, the worst Black History Month ever. I feel gypped. I feel robbed. It was just the worst. I mean, what did we have for Black History Month? I tried to play, some meaningful clips so that we could, celebrate a little bit of but then it just turned so bad. I mean, you had Justin Fairbanks and Joe, what's his name? What's his name? Justin Fairfax. Yeah, nobody's with me. Justin Fairfax from Virginia after Greg Northam of Virginia. We had a lot of blackface for Black History Month, and we had a lot of, he molested a girl when he was going to Duke University, and then after that he did it again in 2000. I mean, it was a very, bad Black History. So March is already better. That's the good news. March is already better because in March we had Selma, Alabama, 54 years later, and, it's the same. Selma, it's the same. I mean, it was unbelievable. 54 years after the brutal beating of Black civil rights, I don't even want to call them protesters, Black civil rights icons who were willing to get beat, who were willing to get on their knees, who had nothing but nonviolence in their hearts and minds, and the idea that everybody in this country ought to have the right to vote. 54 years later, we're still trying to find the right to vote. We're still, because, Antonin Scalia said we don't need the Voting Rights Act anymore. It's racism is it's so 1960s. No, as soon as they took the, it was the case is Shelby versus Holder, okay, and it was 2013, and Antonin Scalia was the one who wrote that, racism is over in America. Why? Because we had a mixed race president, because we had a black president. That's why. So because of that, even though you had the right wing calling him a Kenyan socialist, and now you've got Hungarian socialists, Hungarian communists calling Latina women communists. I mean, it's just such a cycle of projection. It's really kind of amazing. But Shelby versus Holder, that was the decision that gutted the Voting Rights Act and made it completely and utterly ineffective. Why? Because the Voting Rights Act had something in it called preclearance. And what did that mean? That meant that states that, typically dabble, if not swim in the swamp of racism, if they wanted to change voting rights, if they wanted to change even the number of polling places in a district, if they wanted to change voter registration rules, early voting days, if they wanted to change the kind of ID or that you needed ID, they would have to notify the feds. They would have to tell the Justice Department before they could change any damn thing. And the Justice Department would have a look-see to see if they were doing it to surgically identify African Americans, Latinos, minority groups for voter suppression efforts. And when we did Shelby versus Holder in the Supreme Court, they said, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need pre-clearance anymore. You don't have to pre-clear any elect. And I mean, they went to town. North Carolina, we know that they collected absentee ballots and filled them in themselves. We know that, North Carolina, we know Wisconsin added certain kinds of voter ID that would be accepted, and they suppressed 60,000 African-American votes in Milwaukee alone. I mean, it's like the biggest story of 2016 that nobody covers is, the Voting Rights Act this was the first election we had without it. So I have to say, Hillary Clinton gave a speech at Selma. She was honored. She was given a beautiful award at the AME Church, at the breakfast that they have to commemorate the civil rights activists who took beatings, all across the South. And, I mean, people are mocking her because that's what people do. It's just all they know how to do. And Twitter went crazy because Bernie went, and Twitter exploded. I don't know if it's bots. You're going to have to tell me what you think. I don't know if it's bots or if it's real people or if, people got bad information, wrong information about Bernie or about him. I don't know. But all of a sudden, Twitter exploded with Bernie so black. Hashtag Bernie so black. Now, I will say some of the things people wrote on Bernie so black, hysterical. I mean, I'm not humorless. Oh, by the way, I saw Trey Crowder this weekend. If you're in the mood, go. It's a great show. It's a really, really good show. Thank you, Trey. We were texting after the show, and he said, why don't you come back? Because I told you I'm very shy. I really, really get anxious about meeting people, in an artificial situation. And I obviously don't know him, so what was I going to do? I was going to go back and go, hi, let's pretend we know each other for 5 minutes. I always find that, super uncomfortable. Like, if I had to take you back, let's say I had a contest, which I should have done. Let's say I had a contest where I would give you Trey tickets and I would take you back to meet him. Then I would have a purpose, and it would be fine with me. I'd lead the way. I'd, do whatever I had to do. but I just didn't have a purpose, so I didn't. So after the show, I texted him and I said, great show, thanks so much, blah blah blah. And he texts me back. This is hysterical. Wait, he texts. How do you say that word? I'm not really sure. And he texts me back and says, I should have hollered at him. I should have come back. Whatever, And he said, "Thank you, Randy. You should have come back next time." So I texted him, "Wait, what? I'm blowing this guy to get on the list." And he wrote back, "You just killed me." So that was better than meeting him, I have to say. But if you're in a city or a town that has Trey coming to you, your city, please do go see him. It was really fun. All right, so this was Hillary in Selma. It's a little on the lengthy side, but we don't hear from her much. And this was really, really an amazing speech that she gave, because this is true. This is all true.
There is no way we can get to an economy that works for everybody, that produces good jobs and rising incomes and inclusive prosperity, if we don't protect the right to vote. There is no way we can have guaranteed quality, affordable health care if we don't protect the right to vote. There is no way we could deal with any problem, whatever it is that you are worried about, if we don't protect the right to vote, and then if people don't get up and actually go to vote. And when you heard the report from the LDF, I hope you paid attention. Because I was in the Senate. Sherrod was there. I'm not sure if you were there yet, Corey, but we were there when we passed in the United States Senate 98-0 the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. We had a Republican president, George W. Bush, who said he would sign it, and he did. It was based on thousands and thousands of pages of testimony as to why we still, as a nation devoted to the law and liberty that should guarantee every one of us equality, needed the Voting Rights Act. I thought it was a done deal. Passed out of the Congress, signed by a Republican president, and then it found its way to the Supreme Court, because I want you to just never forget, there is an other side in America, and they never give up.
Yep.
They never quit. They're never discouraged. They are motivated every single day to try to pull back rights, to try to suppress rights, to try to prevent people from fulfilling their own God-given potential. And so they did go to work. And when they went to work, they found a receptive Supreme Court who came up with the most absurd decision. Yeah. There are a lot of absurd decisions, but this is, in many ways, the most absurd. The Congress is supposed to legislate based on evidence and facts, which we did, and then it gets up to the Supreme Court, and they say, you don't need that anymore. We don't need that voting rights stuff. You don't have to hold states and municipalities accountable. We're beyond all that now. What nonsense. Absolute, absurd nonsense. And what was the result? They gutted the Voting Rights Act.
Seriously, dude. That was powerful. That was really amazing. And, of course, Twitter mocked her, saying that she was blaming her loss on the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. You know what? If she did just say that outright, which, obviously she was making a different point, but completely. But if she did say, I lost because of the repeal of the voting, because of the Supreme Court gutted the voter, I lost, she would be correct. That was another prong in the Republican playbook to spear her to death, Repeal the Voting Rights Act, have the Supreme Court do it. The next election, Hillary Clinton will run, and we will suppress the vote with crazy forms of, like Texas, your gun license is an admittable, type of ID. Student ID? No, not good. I mean, that kind of crap. She would have every reason to say that, because on top of the voting suppression that happened on Facebook and all the other tactics, that was one of them too.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
What nonsense. Absolute, absurd nonsense. And what was the result? They gutted the Voting Rights Act. I was the first person who ran for president without the protection of the Voting Rights Act, and I will tell you, it makes a really big difference.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just make a difference in Alabama and Georgia. It made a difference in Wisconsin, where the best studies that have been done said somewhere between 40 and 80,000 people were turned away from the polls because of the color of their skin, because of their age, because of whatever excuse could be made up to stop a fellow American citizen from voting. So we're looking toward a new presidential election, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But it's not going to make a difference if we don't bring the lawsuits and win them, right? If we don't register everybody the way Stacey Abrams has been doing since 2014. I mean, just think about it. Between 2012, the prior presidential election, where we still had the Voting Rights Act, and 2016, when my name was on the ballot, there were fewer voters registered in Georgia than there had been those prior 4 years. Think about it, my friends. So we have a calling, a mission. We need to redouble our efforts for the 21st century civil rights movement. Don't just come to Selma once a year.
Yep.
Don't just walk across the bridge. Don't just join hands and sing. We've got to get to work.
She is so right about this. This is the most fundamental right that everybody has. And the way she started this riff about don't expect to get an economy that works for everybody. Don't expect to get decent health care. Don't expect to get representation in Congress for yourself or for, working people. Because if you can't vote and they know you can't vote, they don't have to answer to you. And that is how this has gotten so off the rails. You have people who have been, fighting their whole lives to get equal protection for voters. And we almost got there. We almost did. You got to remember that, people in the, who have had this penchant for everyone voting, saying, that would be a good thing, have been beaten. And those who are on the other side who say everybody shouldn't vote have had their way with us forever. Forever. We have gone through literacy tests. We have seen poll taxes. We've seen violence aimed at people who are simply trying to get other people to register to vote. Particularly at people who try to get others to register to vote. We have now seen in North Carolina an election that was so dirty, that was so off the rails, and North Carolina was one of those states that needed pre-clearance, right? And we've seen an election so dirty that they literally went around and collected absentee ballots and threw them away if they were filled out, or filled them in themselves, witnessed them themselves, and submitted them as genuine ballots. And we couldn't even we couldn't get that election certified. We have a District 9 in North Carolina, unrepresented to this minute. And they would rather have it empty than they would see Dan McCready, a Democrat, take that seat. That's just a fact. And so we're right back where Selma started. We're right back where we were back in Jim Crow. We're right back there, except now we're all black. If you're a progressive, if you're a Democrat, if you believe that carbon is an issue we ought to talk about, if you believe that healthcare is an issue that we ought to talk about, if you believe in Medicare for all or single payer, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you think that this economy is rigged for the wealthy, if you think that last year you got $7,500 back and this year you're paying in $400, that was a ripoff, that was wrong, that was a giveaway to the multi-billionaires, if you believe that, then you are going to have your votes suppressed. It is just that simple. So we're all African American now. All of us. Michigan. Donald Trump took Michigan by 10,704 votes. 10,000 votes. Wisconsin was decided for Donald Trump by 22,177 votes. And in Milwaukee alone, in Wisconsin, 60,000 votes. 60,000 African American votes were not cast. Were not cast. You had 60,000 more voters in the previous election than you did in 2016. How is that possible? How is that possible? She got 43,000 fewer votes than Barack Obama did? Really? That's double Trump's margin of victory in all of Wisconsin, just in African-American Milwaukee. North Carolina literally sent out a press release to boast, to brag about how they were successful in driving down African-American turnout in 2016. They were bragging about it. And Trump, he tells you the exact opposite, that there's widespread voter fraud. We know there's election fraud, like in North Carolina. We know that. That empty district in North Carolina, that is a clear case of election fraud. There is no voter fraud. Nobody goes to jail because nobody does it. It is a high crime. It is a high punishment for low return. So no one does it. But he's still saying it. They're still out there saying it. They still, I mean, it's so disgusting. They were saying it at CPAC. They were saying it on the Sunday shows. These people are incorrigible. They are just vile. They're disgusting, disgusting people. I mean, I'm stunned by how many, even though it's fewer and fewer in this country, to our credit, only 26% of this United States says that they are Republican anymore, and obviously this is one of the reasons why. They just say the most outrageous, false crap. I mean, Trump's CPAC speech was off the freaking rails. He must have just, I swear to God, either they did an Adderall drip or he mainlined it or something, man, because he was all sweaty and he talked for 2 hours, and the fact checkers, we were losing our minds. I mean, it was so difficult. It was crazy. And I'm sitting there going, is he ever going to, if he would have done that to Kim Jong-un, he would have given him his nukes. Kim Jong-un would say, just stop talking. Stop talking already. Here's my nukes. Just go. That's how bad it was. It was unbelievable. It was like wearing everybody out. People that were at the freaking CPAC. Is he still talking? Oh my God. Why doesn't he stop? Why doesn't he stop? Can you imagine what this guy is like in bed? Oh my God. Just repeating and everybody's tired. Everybody's exhausted from hearing him. I'm telling you, if he would have just sat there, if they would leave him alone in a room with every dictator on this planet and tell him to give a stump speech, and he went on for 2 hours like that, they would give him whatever they want just to get the hell away from him. Wow, that was like insane. And then Gorka, they're going to take away your hamburgers. What is wrong with them? Seriously? And people applaud and start screaming USA, USA after he says they're going to take away your hamburger? What is that? I mean, I don't even understand it. I'm not even clear. And then they sit there and they go on these shows like Matt Schlapp and they insist Trump doesn't lie. There really is voter fraud. There really is. There's millions of people illegally voting. I mean, really.
And I think it's a big mistake to say that Donald Trump is somehow a dishonest political leader. He went around this country and said the 7, 8, 9 things that he intended to do.
He lies.
Look at Chris Cuomo's face. He goes, I think it's a mistake to say that Trump lies. I think it's a mistake. look at this. It's like, what?
He is a rare politician.
He lies
Not
all
true.
the time.
What?
Not true.
Matt,
I reject that.
Please. How
Chris,
can you reject it? It's as plain as the nose on my face.
Because what you are going to argue is that there are times when facts are wrong that come out of the president's mouth.
He lies.
He lies.
He said he didn't have anything to do with Jared's clearance, and he did. He said he had nothing to do with the hush money payments, and he did.
Look at
He said 2 million people voted illegally, and they didn't. He lies all the time.
So we just came out of a congressional election, Chris.
Come on.
Are you still going to make the argument that there's not a huge voter fraud problem in this country?
Matt,
I heard you make
please.
Oh my God.
He said 2 million people voted illegally in California. He said he had nothing to do with the clearance.
Illegally?
Matt, look, this is what I don't get.
How many voted illegally in California? Don't call him a liar.
He's a liar.
He's a liar.
He's a liar.
It's a big number in California.
Matt,
but
it's not anywhere near it, and
no
you know
big
it. There weren't
number.
people dancing on the buildings after 9/11. He lies all the time, and you know it. And this stuff with auto-warm beer.
I don't know it.
When President Obama went to Cairo and said America's got to do better than it's done in the past.
Let me try to answer.
Well, but you're shirking the question. You're shirking the question and the reality, Matt. Listen, you guys were so tough on Obama for giving shelter to Muslims.
You're not going to let me talk.
Well, I want to set the table.
You're not going to let me talk.
I want to set the table. This is his third despot in a row. He said that he believes Putin about not being involved with interference. He believes MBS in Saudi Arabia about not having anything to do with Khashoggi. And he believes Kim about not having anything to do with auto-warm beer. If President Obama had said that, Matt, your head would pop off your shoulders.
Definitely.
Now, silence.
Seriously. No doubt about it, right? I mean, and that was the conversation I was having with Kevin this morning. Kevin said the same thing. If Obama did 1/10, 1/10 of 1% of what this man did. I mean, Obama said you can keep your doctor if you like your doctor. Then your employer changed your insurance carrier, and now you've got a whole new slate of doctors. Well, he's not responsible for that. When he said you could keep your doctor if you like your doctor, he meant if you went on the exchange, you could see if your doctor was in the plan that you were going to choose for yourself on the exchange. And if your doctor was not in the plan that you were going to choose for yourself on the exchange, then you didn't have to choose that plan. You could keep your doctor in Obamacare if you wanted to keep your doctor. What happened, though, is employers, like they do, 1 year you're on Aetna. The next year they go, okay, this year we're going to be on United. And then the next year they go, we're dropping United Healthcare. Now we're going to be on Blue Cross Blue Shield. And your doctor may not be on Aetna. Your doctor may not be on Blue Cross Blue Shield. See, it's not Obamacare. Obamacare, you can search your provider and choose the plan that actually your provider accepts. So you did have a choice. But when he said that, they said, he's a liar. He's a liar. And that was after calling him a Kenyan socialist and putting a black man's face with a bone through his nose on a poster in the most racist reference you could possibly pull out of your ass, okay? Now, remember, Barack Obama becomes president. He goes to Cairo and he says we should do better in the Muslim world. We should understand our neighbors better. And they called him an apologist. You have a president who literally apologizes for Vladimir Putin hacking into the Democratic National Committee and interfering in our election. You have a president who apologizes for Kim Jong-un taking Otto Warmbier prisoner. There was only like 4 Americans. You think Kim Jong-un doesn't know when his government takes an American? Are you freaking kidding me? He held him for 17 months. Kim Jong-un didn't know? You have a president who apologizes for Mohammed bin Salman, who most likely Jared Kushner sold our intelligence to, so he would know who was not for his ascension to the throne, and told him who was plotting against him, probably for cash, right? And Donald Trump apologizes for the Saudi king who literally sent his own coroner, his own medical examiner, with 16 other guys and a bone saw to carve up an American green card holder who wrote for the Washington Post, Jamal Khashoggi. And the president of the United States apologizes for these dictators, and they called Obama. That's what I'm saying. It's complete and utter projection. And as they suppress the vote, and as they make voting harder, and as they close the polling places, or they put the polling places outside the city limits where there is no transportation to get there, or they take the polling places from 9 polling places to a half a polling place, or they cut the early voting days, or they say that you need a form of ID that nobody has, okay, a passport or something like that. I mean, our work is not done. These are the basic things. We have to function. We have to function, and we have to function now. And Hillary Clinton, I have to say, to her credit, she was very, you could tell when she's in her comfort zone. She was so strong, and she was so honest, and she was so brilliant. Cory Booker was too. At this AME church, in Selma. I mean, they were awesome this weekend. It was thunder. I mean, and then Alabama got hit by these tornadoes as soon as they left. I think God punished them. I think he did. I think God heard Cory Booker. I think God heard Bernie Sanders. I think he heard Hillary Clinton. I think he heard. And he was like, F you people. course, it's Mother Nature, and you never mess with her. But she asked a great question. What would you have done if you were in Selma in 1954? What would you have done in 1961? What would you have done? It was great. Because you already know the answer.
To anyone who has ever wondered what you would have done during those defining moments that we read about in history books, whether you would have risked arrest to demand votes for women or bled on the Edmund Pettus Bridge to demand voting rights for all, the answer is what you are doing now could be as important as anything that anyone has done before.
Damn straight. Damn straight. I'm so serious. Our work is so far from done. Now, I will tell you that there is some good news around here. Terry Sewell, who is a U.S. representative, last week he introduced a bill seeking to restore the key provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's the legislation that was undone by Antonin. Antonin sat there and with a stroke of his pen, he said, racism is over. We don't need preclearance anymore. So these states can, put all these voter ID obstacles. They can close polling places. They can move the polling places. They can do whatever they want to do. It's like the mafia. Karen can do whatever she wants. Are we having issues? Un poquito. ¿Qué pasó? Keep going? You try. I heard it already. So I was already in that space in my head. 2 minutes, right? Well, U.S. Representative Terry Sewell, he introduced a bill. That bill restores the Voting Rights Act of 1965. I'm serious. We actually have to have another vote on it. And if you think it's going to pass the Senate with Mitch McConnell, you think it's even going to get a vote with Mitch McConnell? And you know what? Our job is to get out in the street and to say to Mitch McConnell, what is your beef with voting? What is the issue with everybody voting? Why aren't you for the Voting Rights Act? Why aren't you for it? How could you be against one man, one vote? How could you be against that? I'm telling you, before 2020. Before 2020.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
By the way, let me say I support cows. I hope to see PETA supporting the Republican Party now that the Democrats want to kill all the cows.
Oh, my God.
Hashtag me too.
That's not something you teach them. That's something they're born with. But as far as those cows you mentioned, I've got 100 cows. You just let Alexandria Cortez show up at my house and try to take my cows away.
Yes. I love cows, Jerry. They're delicious.
Here's the interesting thing, though. You know, with this Green New Deal, they're trying to get rid of all the cows. But I've got good news. Chick-fil-A stock will go way up because we're going to be eating more chicken, all right? I mean, so, listen.
No one is applauding you.
I think that the American people understand what socialism is. We do have to go out and educate. We have to talk about Venezuela, where 90% of the people right now are living beneath poverty, that they don't have groceries in their grocery stores, that people are eating dog food to survive. That is the path that Democrats are taking us down.
They want to take your pickup truck. They want to rebuild your home. They want to take away your hamburgers. This is what Stalin dreamt about but never achieved.
Who is this guy? Is he like wimpy or something like that? I mean, it's cheeseburgers, Sebastian. Gorka. It was all about cows and hamburgers. That was a minute of CPAC, just 1 minute of CPAC, and that was enough to make your head cave in. This is their prescription for what ails rural America. This is their prescription for tell everybody that we want to kill cows and that we're what is he, the Hamburglar? Oh my God, this is the sickest freaking thing I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, it was really off the hook. It was bizarre. And the president hadn't even spoken yet. Okay, president hadn't even gotten up there, and once Trump got up there, I swear to God, he's mainline now. He's snorting it. You know, something. Remember, there was a comedian who said that he used to work for the Trump organization. He used to work for Donald Trump on the Celebrity Apprentice, and he swears that Donald Trump snorted Adderall, crushed it up and snorted it. I'm starting to believe that, you know, he's progressed to, you know, straight to the vein. I swear to you, he must have an IV drip because he was bizarro world. I mean, I'll just play a mashup, okay? So I don't have to play everything, but oh my God, this went on for 2 freaking hours, man.
You know I'm totally off script right now. The Green New Deal, right? Darling, is the wind blowing today? I'd like to watch television, darling. Russia, please, if you can, get us Hillary Clinton's emails. Please, Russia, please. He asked Russia to go get the emails. We're going to look into his finance. I said, where did that come from? He always talked about Russia. The Attorney General says, I'm going to recuse myself. And I said, why the hell didn't he tell me that before I put him in? Russia, 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 Russia. My wife said, you never spoke to anybody from Russia, darling.
Look at him sweating.
I said, that's right. President Trump is waiting for the Mueller report. He's bad. He's a bad guy. But you know what I like about this? Number one, I'm in love, and you're in love. We're all in love together. We've done something that nobody's ever done.
He is so wasted. I'm sorry.
Don, how you doing? Hey, Donnie. I love you, Donnie. For 35 years now, they call Mr. President, sir. How are you? Trains to Hawaii. How do you get to Europe? We haven't figured that one out yet. We don't use airplanes anymore. Is doing well, except, of course, for the never-Trumpers. But they are on mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You don't get rich by sitting behind a desk, so I didn't want to do that. And I'm in the White House, and I was lonely.
Oh, my God.
I said, let's go to Iraq. Okay, General Raisin Cane, how fast can... Sir, we can have it totally finished in 1 week. I said, 1 week? And yet I see senators that are there for 20 years. White hair. See, I don't have white hair.
Because you diet.
Yes, I agree with this. This speech should have been delivered 1 year from now, not now, damn it.
Oh, he's wasted.
Because they're going to grab together. They're going to say, you know, this guy's really laying for us.
Okay, that's enough.
He reminds me of the guy at the party that disappears into the bathroom, and then when he comes out, he's completely shot out of a can, and he's the life of the party all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, he's wasted. He's like, enough, Shecky, okay? Back off, dude. Tip your waiters, waitresses. Try the veal. Thank you, everybody. Good night. What the? He's doing shtick. 2 hours he did. 2 hours of standing there and calling everything bullshit. I mean, he went crazy. He started to curse. He started to scream. He started to yell. I mean, it was awful.
Then we started really doing well, and they were coming from everywhere to vote. Those red hats and white ones.
He's still talking about the
election.
election.
The key isn't the color. The key is what it says. Make America great again. That's what it says.
I mean, he's...
Right?
This is 2 years ago.
But we had the greatest of all time. Now we have people that lost. And unfortunately, you put the wrong people in a couple of positions, and they leave people for a long time that shouldn't be there.
What?
And all of a sudden, they're trying to take you out with bullshit, okay? With bullshit.
Well, that'll solve all of our problems. Thank you for saying bullshit because, you know, now all of a sudden I'm making $15 an hour. What the hell was that? For 2 hours, he talked about himself. He talked about his election. He talked about Make America Great Again hats. He mocked Jeff Sessions' accent. He talked about, the biggest crowds again at the inaugural. He talked about the Mueller investigation ad nauseum, kept calling it bullshit, saying he was an angry Democrat. We all know Bob Mueller's a Republican. Everybody knows that. I mean, it was so off the hook. And like I said, the fact checkers, we're all sitting there, you know, because every time he opens his mouth, you know, you got to kind of sit there and say, okay, that's 9001, 9002, 9000. 2 hours worth. I mean, there are 2 fact checks in the homework. I only put in 2 fact checks in the homework. But if you printed them out, you would deforest North Carolina, okay? Because that's how much paper it took to debunk this man on a stump speech at CPAC, which was so strange. The whole thing was so, and we should have known when Scott Walker opened it up by suggesting that we women are all a bunch of murderers. You know that? Women are secret murderers. We're serial killers, too. And not only do we demand that our OBGYN kill the baby on the altar of Satan in the OR, but if the doctor, is a normal person like most of them are and says, I just can't kill anything right now, it's not what I do. I bring life. I don't. Then we'll take the baby home and we'll kill it at home. We'll kill it.
How important it is today, more than ever, to stand up for the protection of innocent life, particularly when we see the kind of threat. And by the way, it's not live birth abortion. It's not infanticide. It is murder. If you take the baby home and kill the baby at home, it's murder. It's the same thing's true at the hospital.
We are such bitches. Oh, my God. Wow, women. There's something so wrong with us. All we want to do is, create life so we could kill it, to feed our bloodthirsty needs. These people are disgusting. They are literally wicked. And Donald Trump with they're giving him birth control. And, this is what happens on the way up here. He's so bizarre. He's got these rape fantasies, okay? And everything he talks about has to do with a rape fantasy, especially when it comes to brown women. All brown women are in his head as being raped, as being tied up, duct taped, raped, shoved into vans, shoved into the backseat of a car. Of course, windowless vans. He's so specific. And then, on the way up from Guatemala, they're all being raped. This is why there are caravans. Safety in numbers, So, I mean, he's just he was so crazy. It was so off the hook, and it was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen.
But mothers who love their daughters give them massive amounts of birth control pills because they know their daughters are going to be raped on the way up.
Oh my God! First of all, you don't have to take massive amounts. Okay, you just don't. Doesn't work that way. I mean, it was so off, and this went on for days. That's the crazy part. It went on for days. Now, real Republicans are sitting there their mouths are hanging open. They're like, oh my freaking God, in my whole life, I never thought, but the entire Republican Party is finished. It's over. It's done. Which one? $25.
It's interesting about CPAC. I mean, CPAC used to be, the confab of conservatives who would get together once a year, and it's not CPAC anymore. It hasn't been since 2016. It's now Trump PAC, and it should be TPAC. Because the people there they talk about pro-tariffs, anti-justice, anti-law enforcement, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, pro-Russia, pro-autocrat. I mean, it's unrecognizable what Donald Trump has done to the party and what he's done to the conservative movement. And CPAC, which used to be the flagship of the conservative meeting, it's a real shame.
It's not a real shame. I hate to tell you, Rick Tyler, this is not a real shame. This is the natural conclusion to your agenda. This is the natural conclusion of the contract on America. This is the national conclusion for never raise taxes on a wealthy person. This is the natural conclusion of Grover Norquist saying we don't care who the president is, just as long as he's lucid enough to sit up straight and hold a pen and sign the legislation we put in front of him. This is the natural conclusion of Citizens United. This is the natural result of a corrupt party that never gave a rat's ass about people who work for a living, never cared about people who would try to organize themselves so that they would have some leverage in order to get a living wage, a little health care, and a vacation. Ooh, that's so socialist. Ooh, that's so wrong. Ooh, we have to kill the union. We have to, card check is the beginning of communism. Everything you ever stood for was the beginning, anything that we ever asked for as a humankind has been the beginning of the end for you. Okay? Equal voting rights, pre-clearance if you were going to surgically target people in a minority, group, in a minority, position to exclude them from voting. Everything about organized labor, everything about health care. Social Security for you back in 1935 was some commie plot. And then when we got Medicare, that was also a communist plot that was going to tear America apart, limb by limb, bit by bit. We'd all end up being communists, and then you saw communists under every single bed because people were organizing. Now, I'm sorry you're disappointed. It isn't a shame. It is the natural conclusion. The actual natural conclusion of a corrupt agenda that has been bought and paid for by the wealthy. The uber stinking wealthy. This is why Amazon, a $1 trillion company, paid zero taxes this year. This is why GE pays zero taxes. It's a rigged system. Donald Trump exploited it, told you it was, and then glommed onto it, which was always his intention. Now, thank God, we have a progressive caucus. I think we have about 90 members of a progressive caucus, which is insanely good. Consider that the Tea Party, who's morphed into the Freedom Crackers, have about 36 members. See, we're growing. We have about 90. And the co-chair of the progressive caucus is Representative Mark Pocan from Wisconsin. And right out of the top of the hour on the other side, he will join us. I want to make sure that everybody knows in Congress that we are still up against it out here and that they better get serious about 2020. They better get serious about voting rights. They better pass that piece of legislation.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Hey there. Do you work at ICE? No? Okay. Oh, could you get this posted maybe? Hi, sir. I wonder if you could help me out. I've got a Freedom of Information Act request missing. Okay. Good morning. You don't happen to work in the FOIA department, do you? Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi there, sir. Is there a board inside for like lost cats and stuff? No? Back in end of September, there was an ICE raid in Wisconsin. 83 people were arrested. A press release went out with listing 4 people's offenses, and those are folks that very clearly should be deported. But there was nothing about the other 79 people. And what we've heard from a lot of people in the community, family members and attorneys, is that many of them had no offenses. Just wanted to post it like where you have lost cats and stuff. And so we made a Freedom of Information Act request back on October 12th. It's been over 4 months, not got a response. We got a lost FOIA. You know, this has been a long period of time not to get answers, and we're just trying to get what some of the offenses are for the people that got arrested. The problem is no one responds.
Be able to get information from a federal agency, and the idea that they are above the law is just so arrogant.
What did they raid?
All over. They raided people's employment. They raided homes. They went outside apartment buildings, anyone coming in or out when they were looking for one person. They had to stop everybody. And they did this over about a 4 or 5 day period. And this is how bad it was, Randy. You know, the Madison Police, City of Madison, one of the assistant deputy or the assistant police chief has a special phone that you're supposed to call if you're ICE when you're doing something. They purposely didn't call it. And the week earlier, they called the sheriff and asked all kinds of questions about the dispatch center. And he said, why, is something about to happen? And they said, no, we're just updating our records. They went out of their way not to follow the proper protocol. And, you know, if a bunch of cars come up with guns, you really want law enforcement notified because you could have a real incident. And they chose to go out of their way to not let law enforcement know. And even the mayor of Madison, a city of 240,000 people, can't get answers, and he was told he'll never know what those people were arrested for. So I don't accept that as a federal elected official. I will bite onto that ankle and hold on for as long as I can, and I will get the information, but I'm just going to crank up the intensity until I get it.
Yeah, thank you. I would totally appreciate that because 79 people are, just sitting somewhere and we don't know where they are, and they've done nothing except go to work. So
now some have been released, but they still have to show up to a court appearance in October, and they did nothing, and that's the whole point, right? You
have a president, obviously, who thinks everything is for his personal,
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the Justice Department is his personal police force. His White House counsel is his personal lawyer. He doesn't want a merger going through, so he tells the Justice Department to file a bogus lawsuit. They do it. I mean, Jane Mayer popped that one open today in the New Yorker, 30-page article about this unholy alliance between Fox News and Donald Trump and Sean Hannity and Rupert Murdoch and all that, and ICE is his personal police force. I mean, it's a very strange and unfamiliar administration that we have here, and everybody is sitting here, saying, like, to this morning, I was telling a story before you came on about a guy who delivered, I got a kitchen table today, and the guy came from Rooms to Go, okay, and he delivered my table. Lovely guy named Kevin, and he was almost in tears. He knew who I was. I don't know how he knew because it's not my legal name, but anyway, he recognized me in my pajamas this morning, and he hugged me, and we were weeping in each other's arms. And he was saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You have to do something. And I said, well, I'll invite Mark Pocan on the show, and I'll throw it over to him. What are we going to do?
Well, and that's the thing, is we are trying, now that we are in charge in the House, the next appropriations process, and again, I serve on that committee, we will have a very strong bill that really puts some safeguards in place with these agencies. And, of course, we have to, wind up going through a conference committee with the Republican Senate. But we can now at least show the values of what it should be, that an agency shouldn't be so misused. I mean, I guess he hasn't quite put them on as personal security at Trump hotels yet, but give him a couple weeks and that might happen. I mean, he just abused this agency. And like you said, we've seen it in so many areas, whether it be the emoluments clause and his continuing to make money for his businesses, including a hotel in Washington, D.C., to, the Mar-a-Lago effect and everything else. This is something that now finally, Paul Ryan for 2 years did nothing. No oversight whatsoever. And now we're making up for lost time. So we had Michael Cohen last week, and we've had other hearings, and we're going to keep pushing them.
Michael Cohen, oh my God. So Michael Cohen actually lied to protect the president, pled guilty to lying to protect the president, and then the president calls him a liar. That's quite a racket.
Yeah, it really is. I have to admit, I mean, all the times the president said he only surrounds himself with the best people. And, let's face it, it felt like a Goodfellas 6 episode watching, that hearing. It was, Michael Cohen might be a nice person, but he does come across, a little sketchy.
A little Joe Valachi. Remember the
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit like that there.
But that's who Donald Trump surrounds himself with.
Well, I have a funny feeling that this whole thing is a RICO case. I've said this for a very long time. This is, racketeered, influenced, corrupt organization. And the Trump organization is that organization. And just watching, Gerald Nadler put out this list of 80 people he wants to speak to today, I realized that my friend Dean, he had you on his show, and I was listening, and Dean was asking you, why don't we impeach him? But I get that we're already impeaching him. This is it. This is happening. I mean, I see it.
This is what needed to happen, right? I mean, the Mueller report is the Mueller report, and we're all waiting patiently for that. But the Mueller report only looked at a certain spectrum of abuse, and there's so much more that we need to do as a Congress. So, again, Paul Ryan for 2 years looked the other way, sat at the feet of the president, rolled over and got his belly rubbed every now and then, and that was it. That's what we saw from Paul Ryan. And now we have Maxine Waters. We have Jerry Nadler. We have all of these great committee chairs that are going to go and do the job that Congress has to do, whether it was a Democratic or Republican president. You have to have oversight when you're a co-equal branch of government, and we're doing that. And at the same time, we passed 2 major bills around gun violence prevention last week.
That was awesome. Awesome. I forgot to say thank you. Thank you.
It overturned the president's declaration of emergency, which was BS. And then this week we're passing H.R. 1, a complete overhaul of campaign finance, elections, and ethics law. Yeah. So we're walking and chewing gum. We can do oversight and we can pass proactive pieces of legislation, and I think this is what's been long overdue in Congress.
It has been, and you're right. You did pass 2 pieces of gun legislation last week. One was a universal background check. The other one was to give, more time to the FBI if somebody wasn't clearing right away. Previously, for those who don't know, if your background check was taking more than 3 days, like let's say you were, Jared Kushner, and so your background check was taking longer, they would just say, it's taking too long, so give them their gun. Now at least they have 10 days. Okay, so we bought a little time for the FBI to do a background check. So thank you very much for passing that, although it has no prayer in the Senate. I will say this national emergency I'm not enjoying. I'm trying to get into the spirit of being in a national emergency. I'm not, you know, I don't even know what to wear.
Apparently you're forced to golf when there's a national emergency. That's what the president's been showing.
And all they talked about at CPAC were hamburgers. I don't. What is the deal with hamburgers?
That was so embarrassing. I mean,
what is that?
We had a hearing where, Michael Cohen is showing checks for payoffs to porn stars, and then he goes to a family values conference and hugs the flag, starts dry humping it, and next thing you know, gives this crazy 2-hour speech, and they're ecstatic that he's president. What's wrong?
You don't have to say this because you're a sitting member of Congress, okay? But that man is mainlining Adderall. And I know everybody says he doesn't do drugs. I just, for a long time, I accepted Michael D'Antonio, who was a biographer. I accepted Tony Schwartz. They all told me this man does not do drugs. I'm not buying it. He was a sweaty, massive, quivering, mutilated flesh. He taught, if he would have talked to Kim Jong-un like that for 2 hours, Kim Jong-un would have said, take my freaking nukes. Just get out of here. Just take them. Just take them. Go.
I would like to think that there's some excuse for his behavior, so I'll go with it.
Yeah, it's got to be. All right, so how many, these are the questions I don't know. How many people are in the Progressive Caucus these days? How many can I say?
We're somewhere between 95 and 100, about 40% of the Democrats. Yeah, no, it's either the largest or within a person or two of being the largest caucus values-based caucus within Congress. And, we've got 14 people that are committee chairs out of the 21 committee chairs. We've got about 30 that are subcommittee chairs. We are in a position of governing. So when I talk about Maxine Waters or Jerry Nadler, I'm talking about the people who are members of the Progressive Caucus. So
yeah, you are.
We've got some really good people in really good places of power.
Well, we had a great weekend in Selma. I have to say, that was awesome. It was amazing. I actually, even though Hillary is, like a blue dog or a new way or a third way or whatever, she was fabulous. And we've got to talk about, and I know we have to get past the Voting Rights Act again. Terry Sewell's got that bill. That bill's got to come front and center. It's a great thing to confront Mitch McConnell with. Why are you against voting rights? Just exactly what is your beef with one man, one vote? That has to get done before 2020.
And a lot of that is in H.R. 1 that we're voting on this week,
yes,
too. And we're going to break that up into pieces, and we're going to make sure that goes out, too.
That's what I'm going to watch then. Thank you so much. I know I have to let you go. I hope we do this again. There are million things I need to ask you, but just enjoy the national emergency as long as it lasts.
Hopefully not long.
Yeah, really. Well, Rand Paul is a no. Can you believe that?
This is what's interesting. More Republicans should be no.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Thank you. Delight to meet you. Hope we do this again.
Thank you, Randy.
All right. Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Me too, you. Mark Pocan, Madison, Wisconsin, everybody. Beautiful, beautiful Madison, Wisconsin. I didn't even slip in there that, Howard's son went to Wisconsin University of Madison, or however you college people say that school. I never went to college, so. But it's a beautiful place. It really is. I used to live in Oconomowoc.
Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
We are starting this investigation. Tomorrow, we will be issuing document requests to over 60 different people and individuals from the White House to the Department of Justice, Donald Trump Jr., Alan Weisselberg, to begin the investigations to present the case to American people about obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power.
So that would include John Kelly, the former chief of staff, Don McGahn, the former White House counsel?
I would imagine. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but we will be releasing the list tomorrow of over 60 entities, people.
Okay, so that's Gerald Nadler, and Jerry is, Congressman Nadler is the head of the Judiciary Committee, and he did put out his list today, and it is more than 60 people. It's 81 human beings that the Judiciary Committee has asked to come and sit before them and answer questions. Some of the people he named there that you know, Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer for the Trump organization. I promise you this is a RICO case. And, you know, you got to give me credit where credit's due. Yeah, I like to have fun and all that stuff. But, you know, I predicted how many, 17, 18 months ago that this was going to be a RICO case. What is RICO? RICO is racketeering influenced corrupt organizations, RICO, RICO. And you have to have these predicates to bring a RICO case, okay? And some of the predicates are, did you obstruct justice? As well as did you murder anybody, as well as did you kidnap anybody. Questions are, did you launder money? Did you obstruct justice? Did you lie to the federal investigators? Those are predicates for RICO cases. And when I saw all of these, indictments for lying, all of these indictments on obstruction of justice, I realized early on, because that's who I am, that this was a RICO case, and it is a RICO case. And you could thank Rudy Giuliani for figuring out RICO and how you use RICO to go after the mafia, because that is what this is. This is a RICO case. This is right out of Rudy Giuliani's playbook, okay? This is how Rudy Giuliani prosecuted all the heads of the 5 families in New York in the 80s. Idiot. Listen, let me tell you. So I'm looking at who's on this list, and it's every freaking body. Alan Garten, the lawyer, Alexander Nix from SLC, Cambridge Analytica, right? Alexander Nix, remember Chris Wiley, that lovely young boy with the pink hair? Yeah, Alexander Nix was who he testified about, that he and this guy, Dr. Kogan, who was from who's going back and forth to St. Petersburg, Russia, and out of St. Petersburg, out of the university in St. Petersburg, he developed this app that would suck up all your friends if you participated in this psychological profile, like, what color are you? Like, are you a blue? Are you a red? What are you, right? Or what's your favorite Brady bunch? Who's your favorite Brady from the Brady? These kinds of stupid, mindless things. Yeah, he was sucking up you and your friends and all their friends and creating a database for handing over to a campaign so that they could target friendlies and unfriendlies. That's exactly. So Alan Weisselberg is on here. Of course, David Pecker in American Media is on here. Andrew Intrater, who you may or may not remember, he's the cousin of Victor Vesselberg. Victor Vesselberg is a guy who owns a big hedge fund called Columbus Nova. They want to speak to Columbus Nova. They want to speak to Victor Vesselberg. They want to speak to Brad Parscale, who used to go to a Barnes and Nobles and tap people on the shoulder and say, hey, want a website? For $1,500, I'll build you a website. Now he's a multimillionaire. And he's also in charge of the Trump 2020 campaign. How the hell does that happen? From Texas. Brittany Kaiser, who's Brittany Kaiser? Cambridge Analytica. She was with Chris Wiley at Cambridge Analytica. Carter Page, they want to talk. Columbus Nova, that's Victor Vesselberg. Concord Management, remember Concord Management? That's Putin's chef. That's Putin's chef who paid the trolls in St. Petersburg, who built that troll farm. They want to talk to him. Corey Lewandowski. Of course they want to talk to Corey Lewandowski. David Pecker, Department of Justice, they want to speak to Don McGahn. Why do they want to speak to Don McGahn? What about Don McGahn? Because Don McGahn apparently was writing contemporaneous memos documenting law breaking in the White House as it's going on, but doesn't have the balls to resign as White House counsel. They want to talk to whoever's managing the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust. And that's another part of RICO. RICO is if you violate rules of charities, steal money from charities, steal money from foundations, steal money from, it's a RICO case. I'm telling you right now. Dylan Howard, he's from AMI. He's, a partner of Pecker's. Eric Trump, Eric Prince, the Seychelles meeting put together by the UAE for a backdoor to Russia out of the, prying eyes and ears of the U.S. intelligence agencies, right? Because they were up there. Felix Sater, and we know Felix Sater will be testifying on March 14th. We know that. The GSA, I'm not sure exactly what they want to ask the GSA, the Government Services Administration. I find that interesting. George Nader, the Lebanese businessman. Okay, they want George Nader, who is also friends with Felix Sater, George Papadopoulos, Hope Hicks, because Donald Trump dictated some liar letter to cover for the Trump Tower meeting on Air Force One, and Hope Hicks was sitting there, and what does she know about that? Ike Cavaladze, he's the vice president of the Crocus Group. Crocus Group was Aris Agalarov, who put together the Trump Tower meeting in the first place, and Cavaladze also attended the Trump Tower meeting. Jared's on this list. Jason Maloney's on this list. Jay Sekulow is on this list. Jeff Sessions is on this list. Jerome Corsi is on this list. Julian Assange is on this list. Now, if Ecuador will kick him out of the freaking embassy, we could actually get Julian Assange. That would be interesting. Stormy Daniels' first lawyer, Keith Davidson, who apparently was given a heads up to Michael Cohen every time there was what we used to call in the Clinton era a bimbo eruption. He was also Karen McDougal's attorney before Avenatti, right? K.T. McFarland, Mark Cararlo, who was, in there. He quit when Porter was tagged as a wife beater, beat both his wives. Remember that? And Carollo said, I got to get out of here. They want to talk to him. Matthew Calamari over here. The Luca Brazzi of the Trump Organization. Literally a man who cannot put a sentence together in the bright sunlight with two hands and a flashlight. He's the COO of the Trump Organization. Someone's going to have to explain that to me. Michael Caputo. Michael Cohen is coming back. Michael Flynn Jr., Paul Erickson of the NRA fame, Maria Butina's main squeeze, Paul Manafort, Randy Credico. Leave Randy alone. Randy's going nowhere without Bianca. That's his little dog. Reince Priebus. Rona Graff, the executive assistant who apparently yelled out, Roger Stone's on line one when Michael Cohen was sitting in Trump Tower. Rinat Akhmetshin, who was also in the Trump Tower meeting, a Russian. Rob Goldstone, who put together the Trump Tower meeting. Roger Stone. Ronald Lieberman from the Trump Organization. Sam Nunberg. SCL Group, which was Alexander Kogan. That's the same guy that, did the actual app. He invented that app that would suck up all your friends, right, for the Facebook page. Sean Spicer. Sherry Dillon. Remember Sherry Dillon's Little Dog and Pony Show? She's the tax lawyer for Donald Trump. She's the one that had a whole table set up with all these manila envelopes, all these file folders. They weren't even Pendaflex, okay? They didn't even go for the big money. They went for the, Garden Variety manilas, the 3 tabs. And she put them all on a table and said, this is all Donald Trump's, these are all his businesses, and I am going to oversee and make sure there's no emoluments clauses violation. Yeah, so they want to talk to her. Steve Bannon they want to talk to. Ted Malloch. Do you remember who Ted Malloch was? He's the person that Jerome Corsi called in London. Get to Julian Assange right now. The day that the Access Hollywood tape dropped. And they needed to change the subject really quick, and they wanted another dump of WikiLeaks documents. So Jerome Corsi was supposed to call Ted Malloch in London, who's a, Brexit Trump supporter, and get him to call his friend Julian Assange. They want to talk to him. The White House is on here. The entire freaking White House is on here. The Trump campaign, the Trump Foundation, the Trump Organization, the Trump Transition Team, Victor Vesselberg, who, by the way, Victor Vesselberg is under sanctions. Why is he under American sanction? He was one of, I believe, 12 or 16 people in Russia who were put under sanctions after Mr. Skripal and his daughter Yulia were poisoned in the UK. For some reason, Victor Vesselberg, who is one of the biggest oligarchs in Russia, was the recipient of sanctions after the Skripal poisoning. He was also at the RT dinner with Michael Flynn. He's at that table. He's in that shot. Everybody knows it's Michael Flynn and then Putin, and they know Jill Stein is there. And he also, I got to tell you, Victor Vesselberg paid Michael Cohen $500,000 after the election. Why? That's a good question. The president's inaugural committee, so everybody, Tom Barrack, that would be that. Rick Gates is on there. Tom Bossert is on there. Tony Fabrizio is on there. The National Rifle Association is on there. J.D. Gordon is on there. And Kushner companies are on there. The only people who aren't on there, which would have been easier to tell you about, is Ivanka. She's not on there. That's about it. Ivanka is not on there. Everybody else and their company and their mother and their cousin and their friend's friend who once talked to they're all on there. It is quite a list. And so that's why I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking to Mark Pocan about when are we going to impeach him? Because, my friends, with 81 witnesses here that will be brought in one after the other, they are building a case for impeachment. I will say I find that the Mueller investigation is more of a RICO investigation. SDNY is the full-on. See, SDNY is where Rudy Giuliani worked. And SDNY is the full-on RICO case. It is. It's the full-on, this is a racketeer, influenced, corrupt organization, RICO. This is a RICO organization. And that is why Donnie Deutsch has been sitting on, Morning Joe saying, listen, the minute that Donald Trump is out of office, Donald Trump is going to be handcuffed, and Donald Trump is going to be indicted, and Donald Trump's house and his apartment and everything else about Donald Trump, his organization, everything's going to be raided. I mean, if you think Michael Cohen, if you think Roger Stone had a raid, wait till you see, because Donald Trump's got Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's got his apartments in New York, Donald Trump's got this place, that place, he's got a golf club over here, he's over there. It's going to be, oh my God. I mean, it'll be like, I mean, whoa, this is definitely a RICO investigation. And there is no question in my mind that the impeachment process has started. And like I said to you the other day, the only reason why it took so long is because our freaking government was shut down for 35 damn days. And so we passed power to the Democrats, who now have all the committees. The Judiciary Committee, the Oversight Committee, Ways and Means Committee, who can get his taxes, the Judiciary Committee, all of them, the Appropriations Committee, Mark Pocan, Maxine Waters, Government Accountability. Okay, we have all the committees now, and the committees come with a little perk. It's called subpoena power. And so it's already begun. Now, it would have begun earlier, except that he freaking closed the government down. And now you know why. Now you know why 800,000 people didn't get paid. Just so he could slow it all the F down. But, so then he declared a national emergency. Idiot boy, I guess, didn't realize the government doesn't close in a national emergency. He just gets to steal from the, Treasury. And nobody's having any of it. I will tell you what's going to happen with that. I mean, the House already passed the end of the national emergency. Their privileged resolution, joint resolution. Privilege means Mitch McConnell has no choice but to put it to a vote. And all we needed was 4 Republicans to join us, for God's sake. And we have the 4. Rand Paul is the 4th. And he's let's please end this. The president should not have the power of the purse. That is my job. And the rest of them are going to go along to get along because they're schmucks. And they want to be where Michael Cohen was. Apparently, they got some desire to be sitting in the hot seat. I don't know. Either that or they're dirty. Mitch McConnell's going to retire. There's no way he's going to run again in 2020. There's just no way. So it's begun. The impeachment has really, truly begun. And you could take that to the bank.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
He says that he was joking when he said that, and he claims now that he was at a rally. He was not at a rally. He said they were just having fun at a rally and that he was riffing, and that's when he said it, except he forgets people have videotape. And people who don't have videotape They know people who have videotape. And people who don't know people who have videotape, they remember that that was a press conference, okay? That was not a rally. I mean, this man he's so cornered. All he does, I mean, all he did all weekend long was tweet about president. You're harassing the president. You're harassing. I mean, this is a man who will grab you by the genitalia. And so he's, oh, well, I know harassment and you're it's crazy. This is nuts. This is off the hook. So I really feel secure in telling you that this list of 81 people, this return to Congress of Michael Cohen, this is the beginning of impeachment. Now, just remember that the Democrats don't want to overplay this. Seriously, they don't, because it will increase sympathy for poor Donald Trump. So they need the testimony first. This is a RICO case. There is just no question in my mind. SDNY is all over this. No matter what happens, this man is going to jail. And that is why Michael Cohen said to you, with a straight face, I mean, he was deadly serious, that if Donald Trump loses in 2020, he will not go. He will not go, because once he leaves, he's going to be indicted. He's going to jail. Donald Trump is going to die in jail. He's Paulie. Well, Paulie is Paulie. Paul Manafort's Paulie. But, we're going to have to invent a character for him because we've never seen anything like that. But
we truly were at the edge of our seats listening intently as Mr. Cohen told us information that he certainly did not tell us in October 2017 when we interviewed him, and he certainly did not testify to during the open hearing. And that was the arrangement, was that he was going to make sure that when he testified to the Intelligence Committee, he wouldn't talk about anything that could, compromise any other agreements he had or any ongoing investigations. But we did take a deeper dive into what Mr. Cohen knows, and we expect him to come back on Wednesday with corroborating documents to see if it's true.
Yeah, so there's Eric Swalwell, who obviously knows Michael Cohen is coming back day after tomorrow, and he's going to testify again to the House the House Judiciary Committee, and he's going to bring documents. Now, what's really interesting is everybody who's paying real attention knows that, obviously we have collusion. There's no question. We've seen it with our own eyes. The president said he fired James Comey because of this Russia thing. The president had the Russians into the Oval Office without any Americans being in the Oval Office and told them they got rid of this nut job Comey because of this Russia thing. And he said the same thing when he fired Michael Flynn. Well, now this Russia thing is over. Right? He keeps on saying, he told Lester Holt that he fired Comey because of this Russia thing. We know he lied for Donald Trump to cover up the Trump Tower meeting, which we all know happened, and that there was a deal, an agreement. We have dirt on Hillary Clinton. We want to offer it to you. Donald Trump accepted it. If it's what you say it is, I love it. And then a meeting happened. And whatever information was passed in that meeting, we then saw it used. So they keep telling you, oh, it was a nothing meeting. We didn't get anything out of it. But we see everything that they got out of it. They knew exactly what Russia was going to do. They knew that Russia had hacked. They knew that Russia had. They wanted them to give. They gave. Everybody knows that it happened. So this is just ridiculous. It makes no sense to me that there's no collusion because we've already seen collusion. It has happened. But what's going to put Trump in jail? Well, that's his corrupt organization. And you know who knows it? Chris Christie.
Michael Cohen yesterday laid out a list of witnesses that the House now has to give serious consideration to calling in, whether it's Alan Weisselberg or Jared Ivanka and the rest. But what I would also say to you is that there's going to be a big fight. The fight that's going to happen now, I think, is between Congress and the Southern District of New York. Because Congress had a big show yesterday. Politicians like that. They're going to want more. They're going to want Alan Weisselberg. They're going to want the president's children, et cetera. The Southern District of New York, I can guarantee, is not going to want that. They're trying to build a case. And so...
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Let's flip
because
chairs
of what
for a
Michael
second.
Cohen said.
Well,
Michael Cohen is saying he's in regular contact. When Michael Cohen says he's in regular contact, constant contact with the Southern District, and when Michael Cohen says that he is aware of other crimes that the president has committed, but he can't talk about them because he's instructed not to do so by the Southern District, that doesn't mean that the Southern District has a case against the president. It means they're conducting an investigation. I can tell you when I was U.S. attorney, we were investigating the state legislature in New Jersey, and they wanted to hold hearings on something that had gone on. And I called the Senate president at the time, Dick Cody, and I said to him, Dick, do not do hearings because people are going to want immunity because they got Fifth Amendment concerns. If you give immunity, I'm not going to be able to potentially prosecute
Well,
them.
how concerned are you about what we know so far and what you may know that's not in the public space that the Southern District could peel back on this president?
I've always said, Chris, that Bob Mueller is not what should concern the president or the White House. That it's the Southern District of New York.
I think he should be concerned about Mueller. I'm not saying he shouldn't be concerned about Mueller, but, information that Mueller gives would probably just trigger impeachment. And Donald Trump feels very protected by Mitch McConnell and the Senate. And you would have to get, just like you're going to have to get to end this national emergency, 67 votes in the Senate. Why? Because while we have the 4... and this national emergency will be ended, that will be a piece of legislation, and the president will veto it. And in order to undo his veto, you need 2/3 of the House, which I believe we can get. But 2/3 of the Senate is 67, and we will not. And so that's one issue. But the other, removal of the president, that will never happen on Mitch McConnell's watch. Mitch McConnell is a freaking lap turtle. That's what he is. But do we have evidence of collusion? You're damn right we do.
Cohen said, though, in that open testimony, he had no direct evidence of collusion with Russia. The Senate Intel chairman also said, at this point, no evidence of collusion at this point. Have you seen, do you have direct evidence of collusion with Russia?
Well, I think there is direct evidence in the emails from the Russians through their intermediary, offering dirt on Hillary Clinton as part of what is described in writing as the Russian government effort to help elect Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They offer that dirt. There is an acceptance of that offer in writing from the president's son, Don Jr., and there's overt acts in furtherance of that. That is the meeting at Trump Tower and all the lies to cover up that meeting at Trump Tower, and apparently lies that the president participated in. That, to me, is direct evidence, but there's also abundant circumstantial evidence. There is, for example, evidence of Manafort sharing internal polling data with someone linked to the Russian intelligence services. Why do that? What legitimate purpose is there for things like that? Michael Cohen's own testimony was circumstantial evidence that the president was dealing with Roger Stone, who was dealing with WikiLeaks in an effort to
none of this
find
amounts
out
to
about releases of information.
Impeachment grounds for you still. I mean, these are serious allegations.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I've made this distinction all along, and that is, while there's abundant evidence of collusion, the issue from a criminal point of view is whether there is proof beyond a reasonable doubt of a criminal conspiracy.
Actually, obstruction of justice is enough, and we've seen the president obstruct justice. You've read his Twitter feed. That's an obstruction of justice. The fact that he asked Don McGahn to fire Mueller, and Don McGahn said he would resign before he fired Mueller. I mean, there's so much. Can you let Flynn go? Can you let Flynn go? You know, all of that. That's the code. Okay. And that's what Michael Cohen was talking about, right? And Comey testified to that effect. I mean, in the same testimony, Michael Cohen said he doesn't order you to do anything. He just tells you what he wants and you know what he means. It's a code, and I understand that code. Well, Comey understood it too. Let's not forget that Comey was Senator Risch from Idaho, a Republican, was like, well, he didn't order you. He didn't order you. That was his, that was him defending the president. And Comey said, I understood that to mean that's what he wanted me to do.
I hope you can let this go. Now, those are his exact words. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you wrote them here and you put them in quotes?
Correct.
Okay.
And you wrote them down.
Thank you for that. He did not direct you to let it go.
Not in his words, no.
He did not order you to let it go.
Again, those words are not an order.
No. He said, I hope. Now, like me, you probably did hundreds of cases, maybe thousands of cases, charging people with criminal offenses. And, of course, you have knowledge of the thousands of cases out there that where people have been charged. Do you know of any case where a person has been charged for obstruction of justice, or for that matter, any other criminal offense where they said or thought they hoped for an outcome?
I don't know well enough to answer. And the reason I keep saying his words is I took it as a direction.
Right.
I mean, this is the President of the United States with me alone saying, I hope this. I took it as this is what he wants me to do. Now, I didn't obey that, but that's the way I took it.
And that's what RICO is. That's what RICO is. RICO is signaling to a capo, or signaling to a soldier, or signaling to somebody in your organization. This is what you want done without ordering them to do it. I mean, it's pure mafioso stuff, okay? And obstruction of justice and money laundering and even aiding and abetting, things like illegal immigration. That's part of RICO too, you know. And he does that. He aids and abets. And that's why those stories about the women that worked at the Trump golf courses, that's why those stories matter. And, when it all gets put together for you outside of me, you'll all understand why I thought this was a RICO thing. And it is a RICO thing. And there's no question it's a RICO thing. And ordering people is one thing. But working for a guy who says push a button. Okay? It doesn't say go kill someone. He just says push a button. I wish you would push a button on so-and-so. That is understood. And that is prosecutable under RICO. Okay? That is organized crime. It is code. And that's what Michael Cohen testified to. Now, when Michael Cohen said he speaks in code and I understand that code, he was saying this is a RICO case. And when Michael Cohen said that he's in constant contact with SDNY, you should learn from that means SDNY is going to prosecute Donald Trump after he leaves office, and that Donald Trump is going to die in jail. Because that's what it means. Patty in Portland.
Hi. Hello, Randy.
Hello, Patty.
I love you, lady. I just depend on you every day, so therefore I give when I can.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, we're apparently having a lot of equipment failure, and it's happening a little too soon because we're not exactly ready to install the new, and the old is crapping out, so it couldn't really happen at a better time.
So what I'm calling about is there's a litany of people coming out of all these people that the House committees are going to call. And my question is, where is Mike Pence?
Well, Mike Pence...
Nobody ever mentions him.
Well, Mike Pence was in charge of the transition. So when
Indeed.
Right. So on this list is the Trump transition team. So that is, by proxy, Mike Pence.
So, do you think he's going to be charged with anything?
Yes, I do.
He had to. Yeah, he had to have known about Michael Flynn. He had to have known most of those people in the transition were not qualified to go into the White House.
Yes, I do.
And he had to have known what was going on during the campaign.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the testimony that needs to be gotten comes from one Chris Christie, who was supposed to be the head of the transition team, but Donald Trump didn't trust Chris Christie with whatever dirty thing he was doing, so he put Mike Pence in charge of it. Now, wouldn't it be interesting if it's Chris Christie who needs to testify about what Pence knew and when?
Exactly, especially since Mike Pence went on the thing and said...
Well, I just find it so interesting that all of a sudden Chris Christie's all over the TV.
Yeah, and Mike Flynn got fired for lying to Mike Pence.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah, Yeah, because lying is a fireable offense in a Trump administration.
Exactly.
Right.
So they may as well all be gone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, when I saw the Trump transition team on this list, I read that to be Mike Pence. And when I see Chris Christie on the TV all of a sudden, everywhere, all the time, talking, doing so much talking, I realize that it's Chris Christie who's trying to get ahead of whatever is coming.
And I hope when it comes, I hope it's big.
No, it'll be horrible. It's going to be a complete and utter fraud. I mean, it's going to be Fraud Fest. It's like we should have T-shirts made up for Fraud Fest, because everything about this man was a fraud. Not just the university, not just Trump vodka, not just that his campaign was a giant fraud. His presidency, of course, is a giant fraud. But everything he's ever done has been through fraud. You know who also is not on this list, but I know that they want to talk to is Deutsche Bank. That's a separate thing, with the loans and why they would make loans to a guy who had gone back and no one else would. And it's just going to be fascinating. But it's all coming clear now. It's all going to get laid bare. And you're going to see that this is really a criminal prosecution at SDNY, and that Mueller is an investigation into the interference and the cover-up of Russian interference on the part of Donald Trump's campaign, Donald Trump's transition team, Donald Trump's inaugural. The NRA is fascinating because that means maybe they're going after other Republicans. Maria Butina's in jail. She's in jail, and her boyfriend is getting indicted. So, or was indicted. So, this whole scheme is going to suddenly make sense. And both are true. Buy a stinking podcast.